Ethan, you made it!
Hey, Barrett. Interesting outfit you have there.
I mean, I could say the same to you. Like, where's your gear?
I have my player's handbook and my dice right here. Why are you in a leather mask?
Did you not read my text?
I mean, yeah, dude. You said let's roleplay in the dungeon this weekend.
Ooh, okay, alright. I see the confusion. No, this is a different kind of dungeon.
Yeah, I see that now. Probably should have pieced that together when I walked by all those people in leather.
So, you still want to get weird?
Can I think about it?
Yeah, no pressure. I don't want to pressure in anything. Why don't we sit down, let's watch a little double feature, and we'll think about it.
Hi, welcome to the Enter the Dungeon double feature special presented by Jabbermouths. That was a lovely intro from our producer team, and it sounds like they have a lot to think about over the next hour or so, while myself and JD here and my colleague, who needs no introduction, except she does.
No, I don't need it. And Georgia, I hope they figure out what they want to get done. Like, I hope they...
I don't know. I honestly hope that Ethan goes for it, right? Like, you only get chances like that so often in life,
Depends on who your friends are, I think.
That's fair. I was raised very conservatively. I only get those choices so often in life.
Gotta really strike while the iron's hot there.
Literally. Anyway, we watched two lovely films this time around, centered around Dungeons and Dragons.
A game that we play.
We do.
Together, all four of us.
Yeah. And we have a blast. I can't believe how much fun we actually have being a bunch of weirdos playing in mystical ways. It's a weird, nice creative outlet more than anything else to just kind of like tell a story without feeling like the weight of it. I guess our DM feels the weight of it a little bit because we do stupid stuff often.
We don't feel the weight of it. We feel like I'm going on an adventure.
Yeah. So for us, it's great. I mean, your character tries to sleep with anything that walks.
To be fair, I am a bard, and I feel like I'm just really living into the stereotype. And also, who doesn't want to pretend to be a horny bard at least once in their life?
That's true. I thought about doing that. I really did, and then I thought, no, I'm going to be a religious freak for a while.
Same thing. Horny bard, religious freak.
Yeah, I was like, I'll be a religious freak with a lot of sexual undertones that'll maybe come out at some point.
Oh, they've come out. They have come out.
Just like the Catholic Church. The sexual undertones find their way out.
Wow.
What? I connected that to religion. That
You
all
did.
made
That
sense.
was really good. It was solid.
Right. So, speaking of horrible religious over and undertones, the first one we watched was a little film by the name Mazes and Monsters, starring a very young, very new to the film world, Tom Hanks. I think this was the first thing he ever did, wasn't it?
It wasn't his first thing, but it was his first, leading role. It was a 1982 made-for-TV film based on the 1981 novel of the same name. So, going into this, it was already only made for TV, so, that kind of already set the bar of the quality that we were going to get into.
Oh, totally. It's, yeah. Even by 1980 standards, they played as safe as they possibly can, other than some, hallucinations of monsters that happen later in the film. Other than that, it's very, straightforward. I never thought, especially since, I was raised with Castaway and Toy Story and Catch Me If You Can, I never thought in a million years I was going to get to see Tom Hanks stab a guy in an alley. He's just not that kind of person, right? He's just too sweet to even play a role like that. But no, in this one, sure enough,
we get into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say as far as Tom Hanks roles go, this is probably one of his worst.
But, I will say, the acting pretty much across the board actually isn't that bad.
I was going to say the complete opposite.
You think it's awful? I thought it was fine. I thought it was especially Tom Hanks, I thought was passable.
No, this acting is bad, is my note. I think it was all it was over the top of, it's a 1980s film, and I get that.
Yeah.
But everyone, the way they talked, they were talking like this. Every line was as if they were reading it.
See, I felt that more. We'll get to the second film, but maybe that's because the second film was just so much more over the top that, by comparison, it didn't bother me much. But,
I thought the acting was very bad in this.
I have this weird thing, and it's specific to 80s movies, the way I judge them. Because there are gems that are phenomenal from the 80s, and it's really hard not to... And there's gems from every decade like that. But whenever I and Barrett and I at this point have seen so many really bad 80s movies that I guess it just becomes a natural thing to think, well, it's not as bad as this, therefore it's okay. If that makes sense.
Right.
Like, because I think about Conan, for instance. That's one of the first ones I think about. Yeah, I know, it's weird. It's a weird connection. It's a fantasy, actual fantasy world, and this is a movie about the stupid stuff of fantasy. And all of those lines are really bad. Like, the writing is actually kind of good in Conan in the first one, but it's delivered horribly by almost everybody. But it's fun. It's just stupid fun.
This wasn't fun. Do you want to give
it wasn't.
The synopsis of the film? Like,
okay, so we
overview.
got our is it, I believe, 5 main players to this?
4 main players.
4 main
but
players.
Go on.
Yes, because it's 4 in a team, right? 'Cause they need 4 for the D&D. We got the first guy we meet is JJ.
Yes, he is a child prodigy.
Prodigy?
Prodigy, sorry. I'm clearly not a prodigy.
Is that water or like vodka you're drinking?
It's straight vodka. And they mentioned he's got a 190 IQ and that he's a short king, which I thought was really funny. And my favorite part about JJ is in every scene that he's in, he's wearing like a weird, wacky hat.
And they don't explain it. It's so
explain
stupid.
it. He's wearing like
angry.
a motorcycle helmet with a spike on it, and then another he's wearing a pith hat, a hard hat, like old school aviation,
goggles.
a cowboy hat in one scene, and it's never addressed.
The only time he's not wearing a hat is Halloween.
Yes.
In the Halloween party, that's the only time he doesn't wear a hat.
Like towards the end of the film, and maybe they were trying to show that he was like changing it because towards the end he stopped wearing the hats, but it's never addressed. And he is our first member of this party that we're introduced. And then the second one we meet is Kate, which I'm not gonna lie, the very first scene that Kate has, she's talking to a woman on the dock, and I wrote...
I think that's her mother, isn't it?
It is, but I wrote lesbians?
Yeah, it gave that vibe a little bit. And the way that she's talking about how horrific men are in general, and that kind of gives that vibe a little bit too.
Right.
But it also gives a clue to like what all these people are going to have in common, and that's that they kind of have broken homes in one way or another.
Exactly.
JJ doesn't have a dad at home, and the mom kind of doesn't realize that she cares more about her job than she cares about him. Mm-hmm. Kate doesn't have a dad either, and is kind of creating this complex of men are all terrible, even though like the very next guy she meets, she immediately falls for.
And then Daniel.
Yes, we meet Daniel.
Is a super rich kid. His family wants him to be a computer IT guy, which back in the 80s, he absolutely, hopefully leaned into that because...
he got so big. Well, no, he's like, I don't want to do IT, I want to build games. That's what you want to do. And that could still be profitable.
Yeah, it could still be profitable.
I'll say this now, and I'll explain it more later. I fucking hate Daniel. I don't like Daniel.
Oh, I didn't see anything wrong with Daniel.
You know what my issue with Daniel is? You know what his biggest problem is? Because his parents actually care about him, like clearly care about him. They want him to do something other than what he wants to do, but they love him.
Yeah.
His issue is, I'm so pretty that I can only sleep with women. They don't ever want to have a real relationship. That's his fucking problem. Are you kidding me, Daniel? I bet you JJ was sitting there like, oh, what a hard life there, brother. I hope both your parents hear your problems all the time.
That's fair. I will say, yeah, like I'm too handsome and girls think I'm a player because I only sleep with women.
And there's even a line about that later.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And then our fourth round out for the team
Robbie.
is Robbie. And Robbie starts as a new student going to Grant University because we, assume that something else happened at his old one. His parents are like very intense, like you're gonna study, you're gonna do well, and no more of that wacky game.
No more of that mazes and monsters game that you played way too much of, and you got kicked out of school for playing too much, essentially, Dungeons and Dragons.
Correct, yeah.
Oh, that's insane to me.
So that just sets up the character, like, of Robbie. He, like, already has something going on in his life that's bigger than...
Oh, yeah. And that's our Tom Hanks. Like, all the other actors are actors, but this is the only, like, now super famous one.
Yeah, he's the only person from the whole cast that went on, I think, to have a megastar career. They probably went and did other things, but Tom Hanks is like...
Yeah, you see him and you'll know.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah. So, immediately after that, he sees a flyer to join a D&D group, and JJ, like, picks him out of a crowd and just pesters the living shit out of him. And he keeps saying no. Like, I don't want to join. I need to study this year. I need to... Right. And then, he's like, well, you got to come to this birthday party, though. Right? Because this girl will be here who I think likes you. You gotta come. You gotta come. Because you'll meet Kate. Kate will love you. Or not even Kate. It was some other girl.
Some other girl. But that shows up. And then basically, at the party, they all just, like, peer pressure the fuck out of him to join their Mazes and Monsters game.
Well, yeah. And I kind of give a not... Because Kate's all about this men are awful, men are blah, blah, blah. She pushes harder than everybody else. She's the one who's like, I'll be there. And that's when Robbie's like, well, I guess if you're there, I'll go. You know, like, because Robbie's clearly into her immediately.
Oh, yeah.
And that was like, for me, I had a moment where I was like, Kate, you just kind of, you don't really fucking, what do you stand for, Kate?
Kate was, I didn't really pay a lot of attention to her as a character because I thought she was very one note. But
yeah.
Once we get into their very first game of Mazes and Monsters, Dungeons and Dragons, it looked like a fucking seance. Like, they really had, it was super dim, and there were candles lit everywhere, and I was like, I've never played a game of D&D like this. Like, how can you read your character sheets? Like, what is
it became a super cult, and all their pieces were like porcelain.
Oh, they look
like, how
nice.
much work did you put into that? How much? I guess there's no like video game. Like hobbies are few and far between in the 80s.
That's
in
what I thought
comparison
as well.
to today.
They had more time to invest into those things. But yeah,
Right.
I was watching this. I was like, well, no wonder people watching this think that it's witchcraft because they're literally portraying it as witchcraft.
Yeah,
in
it
this
was this
moment.
like conservative Christian view overtone of like what this looks like to them. Like if you're a mom, a white Midwestern mother hearing about this for the first time, and this is probably what she's picturing when she's seeing her kids play this game.
The robes they're wearing, like they're hanging out. They're talking spells. They're talking voodoo magic, and we kind of just from there like see some montages. Kate and Robbie fall in love. It's like the lamest love story I think I've ever seen in my life.
It is, again, one of the most like conservative views of a relationship I've ever seen. Do they ever kiss? I don't think we see them kiss.
I don't think we
once.
see them kiss either.
Once in the whole movie. Robbie tries to move in with her, and we've never seen them even kiss.
Yeah, I didn't even know they were dating. Yeah, because Robbie has a scene where he like gets a bigger dorm room, and he's like, "We're gonna move in here," and she's like, "What?"
She's like, "What are you talking about? I'm not moving in with you. I don't know."
That was odd. Yeah, that was really, really weird.
And then he, oh god, so they get close.
They do. They start dating.
And then we get that side plot. The weirdest fucking thing about Robbie's backstory. Why do we this fucking 90-degree turn?
Yeah, tell
Robbie like opens up to Kate and is like, "Yeah, when I was a kid, my older brother just came to my room and took all my money and he just left. He just left and he said he was going to New York, but he never calls. He just it was 8 years ago or something
Yeah.
like that. He doesn't talk to my parents. My parents don't care he exists anymore, and I feel like it's my fault and I have nightmares about it now."
Yeah, that's when you start seeing like, Robbie, are you okay? Like, what is going on in your psyche? And his brother's name's Hal, which is important later on in the film. But that part was a bit odd to me.
He's got just deep psychological damage from this that we get out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. I think a lot of this movie had a lot of things out of nowhere, because then the next thing that happens out of nowhere, what really gets me is that JJ, they're playing a game and he essentially like kills his character kind of on purpose accident.
Daniel kills his character.
No, it's JJ.
Well, JJ gets his character killed.
Yes.
Because
so that's what I meant, is like JJ gets killed, but Daniel, as the DM, like kills.
Daniel was their DM.
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh, bro, there were spikes in that pit. Why didn't you check? And now you're dead." Even though, okay, nerd moment, right?
Nerd moment.
So
he didn't even roll for damage.
Right, didn't roll for damage. If you play D&D, all these guys are level 9, right? If one spike pit is killing you, how fucking weak are you at level 9?
What's your armor class, bro?
You're level 9! You have to have enough health to survive that. Oh, our producing team would like to weigh in on this D&D matter.
So this isn't really a producing note. This is your Dungeon Master note. Hi, I'm Dungeon Master. I'm gonna level with you guys. Yeah, I really softballed you with the damage for traps. Like, some of those in the first session could have easily one-shot you. So, that part I do have to argue, no, it's still... Traps can kill you. I just softballed you guys.
Oh, we were level 3 versus a level 9?
Level 9?
There are a lot of weird traps in the game.
Spike pit?
Yes, but you were even going with low-level traps.
Okay, well, thank you for saving us all wise and knowing DM.
Bigger issue here is he dies, his character dies, and he has a fucking tantrum. He is so angry his character is dead, and they completely play the game. Like, this is how you can tell they didn't do any research into how to play D&D. Because they're all like, "Oh, your character's dead. Now we can't play with you anymore." What do you mean you can't play with him anymore? He's like, "Make a new character."
They did say that, yeah.
But then he goes, "But it's going to take him forever to get back to level 9.
It
Like,
would.
Just make a level 9.
Yeah, you could just make
Just
a
make a level. What fucking D&D police are going around going, "Hey man, did you work hard to get up to that level?
You gotta start at 1 no matter what."
Or are they just like, "You gotta go find another group who's just starting out with your level 1, and when it gets to 9, maybe you can
Come
catch back up with us. You'll have to go back through the dungeon yourself, and you'll figure it out."
And my favorite thing that this is...
Producing team.
So I went and read a bunch of synopses
Synopses?
of
That.
this movie because it took a while to comprehend what happened. He kills his character to force them to go into the caverns so he can commit suicide in the caverns.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about that next. That's my favorite part of the whole thing.
Your favorite part is him
No,
talking
okay,
about suicide?
listen. Yes, because it's out of fucking left field. This kid JJ has the talking bird. And out of nowhere, so yeah, he kills off his character because he wants to make everyone go into the cavern. The line is, you know what? No Grant student has ever committed suicide. That is the line. He is sitting there planning a suicide because he wants to be remembered and be in immortality. But the way he goes about it, it's so casual, out of fucking nowhere. Just like, hey, bird, no one's ever killed himself at this university. I should kill myself at this university so I'll be remembered. And then it's never brought up again.
Well, what like confused me about it is he goes over to, and he was just hanging out with Daniel, by the way, because I looked up a synopsis about this too. He was just hanging out with Daniel, and he goes to ask Robbie goes to ask Kate about doing something, and Robbie's the one who answers the door at the dorm.
Yeah.
And so and that's when he goes into the spiral of like suicidal nature.
That didn't make any sense to me.
So like I was like, does he want to bang Kate?
No,
and he
he's
just has never
16.
talked about it. Like that's what I'm wondering. Does he have just like feelings about Kate that he never explored? But in the synopsis, it says part of that is because he's lonely. He's just lonely because everyone else has people to hang out with but him.
That's
but
the line that they mentioned in the film.
But I was also like, you were just hanging out with Daniel was in your dorm with you. You all were fucking chilling. Daniel doesn't have a girlfriend. He's too pretty to have a long-lasting relationship. What do we... I don't understand
You were
that.
just with someone. But yeah, like, he's not sad. Like, he's really not that depressed, or they don't portray it to be that way. He's literally just like, I want to be famous. I better kill myself. And then it's never brought up again. And because this movie is loosely based on a partial true story.
Yeah, so we'll get to
it's like
that.
not really true.
The other movie, I'm thinking of something else from the other one.
So in this one, there really was a college student who did end up committing suicide, and the mother blamed it on Dungeons and Dragons. But I later, I did some research into it, and the student actually never committed suicides in the tunnels or in the sewers. He actually lived and then went and lived in New Orleans with his father for a little bit and ended up killing himself 2 years later. But for whatever reason,
got twisted after
yeah,
that.
his mom still was like, it's definitely because of this. And the writer, the author of the original book, whose name I didn't write down for some weird reason.
Are we missing it? Or is it
it's fine, but the
look this
author
dude up?
of the original Mazes and Monsters wrote the book in one day because she wanted to tell this story before any more media came out around it. So like knew.
That's shady as fuck.
Right, but so when I was watching this and JJ starts talking about suicide, I was like, oh, so this is about JJ killing himself, and then it's never brought up. He never says it again. Doesn't ever actually come to fruition.
You're forgetting we have psychopath Robbie having his problems
Yeah,
at
apparently
night.
he's the main character.
Yeah, because he just so to speed it along, I guess JJ goes to the caverns and sets up a bunch of shit, even though they're like considered dangerous. You can get lost in there. Mm-hmm. Sets up a bunch of shit and says, "Oh, we can play Dungeons and Dragons in here, and like we can LARP is what we're gonna do.
I was gonna say, I was
LARP.
like, did he invent
live action
LARPing?
role playing?
Did JJ invent the LARP in the caverns?
So they start doing it, and that was really detrimental for Robbie because he's already like kind of got schizophrenia about his whole mental situation. So when they go in, they're all having a blast. They're having a great time, except Robbie gets like alone.
He gets scared.
And he fucking hallucinates that there's an actual monster in there with him.
Which was a horrific looking puppet.
That'd be a pretty traumatizing. If I was in a cavern like that in the dark, in the middle of the night, I think that my suspension of disbelief would be high enough that if I saw some shit like that, like rushing me, I'd fight it. I'd throw hands. I'd be terrified.
But that wasn't real.
But he didn't know that. Robbie was having an hallucination.
He was. And it was also 1980s graphics, and so there was no such thing as CGI back then.
Right, so you know what you were seeing.
Yeah, and so it's definitely, you can see the shift of Robbie internalizing Purdue, his character, who's a cleric?
Yeah, so because so they couldn't say D&D, they had to say Mazes and Monsters.
Is cleric?
So at the time, from my understanding, is D&D also held like the rights to the names of those classes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So he was a holy man instead of a cleric because you couldn't be a cleric. Like they couldn't name him a cleric.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, his big thing was like he never wanted to fight with his sword. He only wanted to use his spells. And so, but then he put in that situation and he used his sword. It totally rocked him mentally.
It ripped him apart because
Yeah.
he thought he had like blood on his hands and everything.
Thought he had killed something.
Yeah, and then he's just stuck like that now. Like
Yeah.
he in his head, even though like his memories still exist of all these other people and like the world, in his head he is this D&D character now.
He's starting to go off because then we see the scene of the Halloween party and everyone's dressed up and he's dressed
Oh
up
my
as
god,
his
that
character.
was so hilarious. Everyone else is having such a great time and partying and people are showing up and it just cuts to Tom Hanks just dead faced, just staring at a wall.
Wearing a robe. Yeah, and so he really starts to. This is when we see also his dreams really start to ramp up. So I mean, he probably has some sort of undiagnosed schizophrenia, but he's having these dreams of a prophet who is telling him you need to find the 2 towers to get to the Great Hall, and you know he's
and
having
Hall is like his brother
Great
Hall,
brother,
right?
Great Hall, Great Hal. Yeah, and so he's like completely losing it, and he is starting. This fucking prophet tells him that he needs to be celibate.
Yeah. So he breaks up with Kate.
He breaks up with Kate because his hallucination in his fucking mind said, "No more boning. It makes you dirty." And you're
Even
a
though they
holy
never
man.
even kissed on screen.
They've never kissed on screen, but we had to assume they were fucking because he breaks up with Kate, being like, "I'm a holy man and I need to be cleansed."
Yeah. So that all happens, and everyone's worried. Well, Kate is worried about him. The other guys are like, oh, whatever.
Yeah,
he's
they just
fine.
think they're like, yeah, it's just Robbie being really into the game, and Kate's like, no, like,
Something's wrong.
This is odd.
Yeah. Well, then he disappears.
Oh,
right.
Yeah, because he has like that final prop. It's like, you're ready for the journey, and he's
You
like,
gotta go.
I must go, and then he just fucking dips and ends up in.
Well, so he heads to New York because
Yes.
that's where his brother ran off to when he was a kid. So that's where the psychosis comes full circle. Mm-hmm. And they go to the cops almost immediately. They're like, something's not right with Robbie. We need to figure this out. We think he went in the caves. Blah blah. Well, they don't even tell him at first. They kind of like skirt around it because they don't want to get in trouble.
They don't want to be. What is it, implicated in also being in the caves in the
Because
cavern
they could get them expelled.
And I just remember they're talking to the detectives, like they're trying to help them out with like the map and everything, like sneakily. And I remember Daniel says a line being like, oh, like, you know, we're just playing monsters and mazes and monsters. And the cop says mazes and monsters is a far out game.
That investigator hates that game so much. And also, I love how quick the investigator was to just assume that Robbie was dead.
Oh yeah,
Because he was just like, oh, don't worry, we'll find the body.
we'll find the body.
It was like 2 days after after he had gone missing.
Yeah. And then Robbie, so when he's in New York, he's running around as Purdue, as his character, and he gets mugged on the streets of New York.
2 idiots try to chase after him.
Right, which
and
was aggressive.
They don't have weapons of their own.
They do not.
For some reason. But they're like, no, we're going to mug the... I mean, it's
1980s.
It's 1980s tiny, scrawny Tom Hanks in a robe.
Yeah,
Right.
and he looked unstable, so they felt like it would be an
They're
easy
like,
2-on-1.
We can take him out.
And he ends up fucking taking out a real pocket knife and really stabbing a guy because in his head he saw the monster again. He was hallucinating, saw the monster, and then seeing the blood on his hands like took him out of his psychosis.
He wakes up for a second. And by the way, he leaves the guy there.
Yes.
On the ground. He runs off with a stab wound. But like,
yeah.
we never get that
I
resolved.
don't think he dies. I mean, it was
1 stab wound.
It was 1 stab
If the-
wound
it was
to
a
the
TV
stomach
movie.
area, and it was about a 2.5-inch blade.
It
I
wasn't
think
long.
he's probably fine.
I have a story about that. Never mind. That's my point. Maybe I'll tell the me getting stabbed story some other time.
Brilliant. But like, yeah, Robbie, he comes out of it, he calls Kate, and he's like, he's crying. He's like, I don't remember.
Yeah, he's fucking mortified with everything that he's done.
I got blood on my hands.
He tells them that he tells them that he's in New York.
Where
he's
JJ
okay.
is from.
And JJ's like, my mom lives over here. Just go here and wait, and we will come to you.
Mm-hmm, and they're gonna try to, and like all the while, the gang, they're trying to put together pieces to like find where Robbie is because they found his map of the 2 towers. And this whole time I was like, they're not gonna make that the Twin Towers. They're not gonna.
Nah.
It was. Yeah. It's the Twin Towers.
It's the actual World Trade Center.
They actually filmed it in the World Trade Center, in the Twin Towers, and they found out that that's where he was going.
We have a producer who would like to chime in.
So this is actually a question to spur conversation. Okay. Have you guys ever seen the inside of the Twin Towers before that shot?
No. We were too young, I think, all of us. Because I was 4 when that happened.
I was in the 1st grade. And I've just seen like movies like, I mean, I saw Remember Me with Robert Pattinson, but obviously that wasn't like the real
I don't think
Twin
it was
Towers.
either.
No, because obviously they filmed that after
They've been
went
gone
down.
by then. Because he was also a child
Yeah, and
when
I've
that
never
happened.
seen any like footage of it actually, and so it was a beautiful building.
Oh
It
yeah,
was really pretty.
I bet it was.
It was odd, like, watching that, in 2022, being like, oh, that's not there anymore, and, like, all those people died there,
Yeah,
and
but
now...
like that movie, what was he said 1982?
1982.
19 years prior.
I know,
right? Like
but
whole lives
still,
lived in past, right?
But, like, it was a bit, yeah, so as they were doing that, I was like, oh, Robbie, oh, the homeless man in the subway.
Oh
really
yeah,
cracked me
so
up.
Robbie goes right back into his psychosis once he gets to
The subway underground.
on
He,
his way to the
finds
to
a
the
steam room.
yeah.
And on his way, he meets this homeless guy, and basically thinks that the homeless guy is his prophet, and tells him to go to where the two towers are. Because obviously, you ask a guy in New York, "Hey, where are the two towers?" They're gonna fucking point you right at the Twin Towers.
So
and
he
they
goes.
figured out the gang figures out. They're like, "Oh, the two towers, the Twin Towers, and the Great Hall. Do you think he means his brother Hal? Do you think Robbie's gonna go to the top of the Twin Towers and jump off and kill himself so he can be with the Great Hal?" Yes.
Spoiler alert, that is exactly what happens.
That's exactly what he does.
And I personally think that would have been a better end to the movie. For a couple reasons.
I agree.
Because A, it would have been shorter.
Yes.
And B, what we get instead actually kind of pisses me off. And it's a horrible reflection of our healthcare system.
Well, what we got instead, honestly, I think hurt my heart a little bit more. So,
Yeah.
if you do you want to tell the people how it ends?
They stop him, they get him.
Yep, they save him.
And his parents essentially do the equivalent of taking your old dog to the farm, right? They take him to this like meadow where people with psychosis can live, like a mental facility, where his head, and they have no interest in curing him. Here's where he's going to live till he quote unquote gets better on his own. He's just stuck like this now as Purdue.
Is Purdue, and yeah, his friends show up to come greet him, and he greets them as their D&D names. And even the character that had died, JJ's character, he like greets him like, "You've come back from the dead," and he has zero recollection of JJ, Kate, and Daniel being themselves, and only adds their characters. And it kind of like made me so sad because he's just like stuck like that.
Right. Oh, before I forget, Daniel and Kate then immediately get together, and why that's important is they kiss and make out fucking hard immediately.
Maybe Tom Hanks had a no kiss clause in his contract.
That's possible. but what made me laugh more was Kate's line was, "I didn't think that I should go for you because you were so handsome. I thought you were a player." And he's like, and I would love if he like had just taken that moment and looked to the camera and went, "I fucking told you guys. I told you it's a real problem."
Yeah, that's that was good. And then so at the end, Robbie is who he is, but then they have this like
They pity
scene.
him.
It's really sad, and they do like play one last game with him. And that's what they
yeah.
say. Like they pity him. They take him through the forest. They take him on one last quest. But then kind of at the end, Daniel all of a sudden doesn't want to be a game producer anymore. He says he's going to go work in IT. And Kate's like, "I'm going to write my story." And JJ's like, "I'm going to go be in the acting program." So all of them are essentially also stepping away from the game, showing that like it didn't just mess up Robbie, but now by association, it's also fucked them up, and they've all decided that they no longer want to play this game.
Right. Well, it's like the mission statement of the movie by the end, right? Is to be like, let's show people the dangers of Dungeons and Dragons and why you should go and pursue more productive things in life, right? Even if that, and for them, they were enough to be like, even if that's acting or being a writer or whatever, right? This is me talking as a conservative Christian for a second. Mm-hmm. It's so much better than that devil worship that you do when you roll that fucking D20.
You'll lose yourself into the character, and reality will like lose all of its meaning, and you'll do crazy things. You'll stab a guy
in an alleyway. Granted, like, okay, let's say he doesn't have the psychosis for a minute, just for a second. Two guys try to mug you, and you're in a corner, and you have a pocket knife. Does that play out any differently, you think? Because I feel like Tom Hanks still goes, "Hey man, get the fuck away from me," and potentially stabs the guy. I don't think that plays out any differently. I think he's maybe a little bit less damaged by it. But I think if he's Robbie in that moment, I think he still maybe stabs a guy that day.
Yeah, I just left him on the phone. He stabbed a guy. I killed him.
I don't know where I am anymore.
Yeah, the voice he does is very strange.
He's so like having a breakdown moment.
Yeah, it was basically the moral of the story is that Robbie had undiagnosed schizophrenia, and mental health care in America, even back in the 80s, was trash.
Historically bad, like horrifically so. And Don't play D&D, kids.
Don't play D&D.
I think that's about all I had on that. I mean, okay, before we start the next film, did you like this one more? Did you like what we're going to talk about next more? I know my answer.
That's like asking me, what do you like more, cat food or raw tuna salad?
Well, there is an answer.
There's not.
There
both,
totally is. Have you
both,
tried
like,
one of those?
Bad. I don't know. It's like,
I don't think I've ever eaten cat food. I don't know if I
I'm
care.
not gonna lie. I was mildly entertained at moments, but it is an hour and 37 minutes, and I remember that because I was checking the clock every fucking 2 minutes to be like, how much longer is this movie?
See, this is why the next one is part of why I love the next one more.
Okay.
Is it's 40 minutes long. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you have essentially like an episode of like an hour-long drama. That's all you got.
And I would
That's
say
with the commercial breaks factored.
It goes by a lot faster.
They tell the story. They do what they came to do, and they leave. And I'm here for that.
Yeah.
Do our producers have anything else they want to chime in with before we head on to our second feature of this doubleheader?
No, you're good.
All right. So then the next one we watched is a 2014 short film known as Dark Dungeons, based upon the comic by Jack T. Chick of the same name.
Mm-hmm. This one hit me on a much more emotional spot, like personally.
Okay.
Not like, really in-depthly in any way. But like growing up, I was in a household that very much hated all sorts of things whimsical, if you will. Right? Like Lord of the Rings, taboo. Harry Potter, not okay. Dungeons and Dragons.
Could you watch Chronicles of Narnia?
Of course I can watch Chronicles of Narnia. But we'll talk about that because that's in this movie too. Because Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is an allegory for the second coming of Jesus Christ. So they were all about that. They were all about Aslan coming back from the dead and saving all the little woodland creatures.
Like Jesus Lion Man.
He is Jesus Lion Man.
Okay. So you felt really...
I was like, this is literally how we were, like, in Sunday school. This is how they talked about stuff like this.
Holy crap.
This really over-the-top, almost comical depiction of all these... Like, at the beginning of the film, there's this order of dark people in a spooky castle.
Wearing cool robes. And had, like, a bunch of, like, high-tech computer screens that just had maps of the USA, like, flashing.
Yeah. Why just the U.S.?
It was just only Satan can be in the United States.
Right? And they're like, how have you served the Dark One recently? And one of them goes, more people have chosen to be homosexuals than ever before. And they're like, yes, wonderful.
Tarot card sales are through the roof.
And more people are playing Dungeons and Dragons than ever before.
I don't think
they say RPGs. That's what it is.
They use the word RPG in this thing as a verb.
Yeah.
And, like, as a noun as well.
Yeah.
Like, they call them the RPGers.
RPGers.
Or you want to go RPG with me?
Yeah. Let's RPG. RPG. There's a whole fucking...
There's
okay,
a whole
we'll get
chant.
to that.
So basically, this film was produced by a man named J.R. Rawls, and
he's kind of a kid. You gotta have a kid in your heart if you really want to make something like this.
In college, and so there's these things called chick tracts, which are essentially evangelical gospel comic books created by Jack Chick, and that chick tracts are designated as an active hate group because they're they are anti-Catholic, anti-Muslim, anti-homosexual, anti-everything other than evangelical Christians. And so there are...
Even though Catholics were, like, first,
yeah,
technically, historically.
These things hate
Muslims
the
were also way before.
They hate them. But so this kid, J.R. Rawls, he reached out to Chick and says, hey, I want to, make this. Can I have the rights? And Jack Chick was like, absolutely. Because he thought it was going to be... something that's like gonna honor.
Well, and Rawls was like, "We're gonna do a faithful depiction of your stuff," knowing that a faithful depiction of this is batshit insane.
Yeah, because it was filmed originally at the 2014 Gen Con, which is the largest tabletop gaming convention in Wisconsin, or it's in Indiana now, but it's somewhere up there, and so it was premiered there. So knowing that this was made to premiere at the largest tabletop gaming convention, you have to know, like, yes, it was made with the intent of following it to a T, but it was made with the intent to basically say, this is fucking crazy.
Yeah, it was to display the fact that like there was no need to parody it in the sense
Right.
of making
It's
fun of it because
already.
the source material itself is fucking comical.
Yes. And so we start with two young girls who are childhood best friends, and they're going to be roommates.
Super Christian.
Super Christian. Roommates at college, and they're literally their
who
first
probably
scene.
have some repressed like sexual feelings for
Oh
one
my God,
another.
I thought
I'll
this was-
argue that all day long.
I thought this was a bad lesbian porno based on the very first, like, the very first scene of them together. They're talking about how we're going to spread the word of Jesus, and I'm so excited that we get to grow as people, but grow toward the Lord together. And I was like, this is gay porn. Like,
very
this
gay.
is bad lesbian porn, and
you're
that's
gonna-
exactly
yeah.
what this is. But they go
But it
to...
never happens, unfortunately.
It never happens, unfortunately. They go to, like a not quite a youth group, but, like, there's
It was
this...
like an orientation, but the leader, like the senior who was giving the orientation was also clearly super Christian.
Yes.
So maybe it was like a Christian orientation
Yeah,
thing.
and it basically told them, like, all the good things to do in college. Like, you know, join activities and, like, have hobbies and friends and, like, be nice. And as they're leaving this orientation, it's very, like, classic high school or, you know, like, montage scene where, like, the cool kids come in slow motion.
And they're all wearing leather
and black,
and all blacked
and this guy's
out,
like all
super
jacked.
gothic.
He's wearing like a tank top, and they look like trouble to these good Christian girls.
And my favorite line in the whole movie is by the Christian like senior who just finished the orientation because they ask him like, who's that? And they go,
Yeah.
those are the RPGers, and says, we've been trying to get them kicked off campus for years, but they're just too cool.
They're too popular.
I was like, in what fucking world? Like, I love D&D.
Oh, I do too.
I love all that
Yes.
that nerdy crap, but it is nerdy crap. Like,
nerdy crap.
Like, what fucking world are these the cool kids? Like,
right.
can I see like a football player come out, like just for the sake of fixing my sanity? Can I see a football player come out of nowhere and like door slam one of these people
Right.
like hard? Like, I understand bullying's bad, it really is, but I need my paradigm fixed here because this makes
Right.
no sense.
Absolutely. Like, we are avid D&D players, and I know when I tell people that, I 9 times out of 10 get that's really fucking nerdy.
Oh, yeah, it
Like,
is.
if no one, unless other people who play, they're like, oh, cool, like, tell me about your campaign. But to the rest of the world, this is not cool. And so, yeah, the fact that they're like,
Not here.
they're
Here
too
it's the
popular,
edgy.
too popular, get kicked out.
Yeah.
And then it's funny because then these nice little Christian girls who are definitely harboring sexual fantasies about each other, they go to their first college party, but not to party. No, they go to spread the word of the Lord at the party.
The fucking giant frat party.
Because they're like, how are we going to spread the word of the Lord if we don't make friends?
Yeah, you wanna know how well it goes? They get drunk. That's like they just start drinking with everybody. I don't say they get like crazy drunk, but they just start drinking with everybody and partying.
Not at the first. They started drinking because one of the RPGers named Nitro.
I love Nitro's the only name. I'm gonna be real. I didn't write down any names of any characters because once I heard Nitro, that was the only one I needed.
Don't
to know.
worry, I got you.
Okay.
The main girls are Marcy and Debbie.
Marcy and Debbie.
Marcy and Debbie.
Mar-
Very classic.
Which one's the glasses one? Is that Marcy or Debbie?
Marcy.
Marcy. Okay, that helps me know for later when
I
important
got
things
you.
happen.
But so Nitro comes up and he's like, hey, ladies, like, you know, come drink. It's a party. And so he asks, I think he's like, didn't you come here to make friends? And Debbie goes, well, and he just says, I'll take that as a yes. And then
Like,
grabs her and,
grabs
like, pulls him into the party. So they are drinking. But then we find out, you know, during the party, this isn't a regular party. No.
No.
It's an RPG party.
And fucking Nitro gets up and cuts the music and is like, are you guys ready to have the main event? Let's RPG! And they start chanting like
Everyone,
how many
RPG, and they bring out these like tables. They're bringing out like all their stands and their characters and everything, and then
head honcho.
ooh, this fine, beautiful, sexy lady
She is gorgeous. I'll give her.
known
She's very,
as
very attractive.
Mistress Frost. She is like the DM.
She's the DM, but she's like 40, isn't she?
She's an absolute cougar, and I wanted her to
she's
step on me.
gorgeous. But like, where did she come from? Is all I want to know. How is she legally on this campus? That's all I'm. She doesn't go to classes. She's not a teacher.
Nope.
She's just there.
Well,
she just live in the frat house. Is that what that is?
I think she must live in the RPGer's house.
Right.
Well, we do later find out that Miss Frost is...
She's like an agent for the dark.
She's an agent for the Dark Ones. Yeah, so they
Okay.
start doing... they start RPGing. You know, the girls sit down.
There's that amazing line though, because at first the girls don't want to like do it. Like
Yeah.
they're very apprehensive. And Nitro is like, you dare refuse Mistress Frost's gifts?
Yeah. And
You
she's like,
dare.
no, they can make the decision if they're chickens or not. Like,
Well, it's like
very
the first
much
time you
like
hear
peer
it, because I
pressure.
couldn't help but bust a fucking gut when she goes, now, Nitro, stop. And Nitro like pouts about it. He's like,
Now, Nitro. So they started doing this, like, really intense montage of, like, all these characters getting killed off. But this drove me crazy when they killed the character. They destroyed their miniature.
yeah,
those
they
are-
burned it. And they
Those
had
are
to
fucking
fuck up.
expensive!
What's what? Oh, we have a producer input.
Oh man, let me. As someone who just got into miniature painting, I would throw hands. Like, hey, I
literally-
spent 2 days painting this guy, and you're just gonna crush him, Nitro? You fucking prick.
Yeah, they crush them, they throw them in the fire, and I was like, those are really expensive and take a lot of time to put together. What the fuck? But I mean, it was like symbolic to say like, you're dead, you're out.
No, I get it. You know how bored I'd fucking be if I wasn't one of the people playing? Because only like 6 people play the game.
Right.
Everyone else in that entire party has to just sit there and be quiet.
They
and
did. They
watch.
had like an audience, like huddled around them, like it was like a cockfight or something. You know, like something really
It's ridiculous.
exciting.
And everyone is like trying, like, I'll give them the credit. They did the party scene well. Like, it's hard to, like, when you're in a small, like, short film, stuff like that, it's kind of hard to depict a party well. And
Right.
the party part was great. The D&D part made me fucking uncomfortable.
Yeah, it was
I don't
odd.
need people, like, I thought about this, because at first I was like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to have, like, an audience who actually wanted to watch me play D&D. No,
We say the dumbest things during D&D that I really don't need other people.
I just don't feel like people would have fun
No.
watching, like, 'cause we would laugh at our own dumb bullshit,
Right.
and that's about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Because we're the ones doing it, but I can't imagine anyone would like sit. But then again, there are like critical
Well, there's like
role.
critical. See, but I feel like
and,
that's
all
partially
those
because
other...
those are really charismatic people who are
They're
just funny in
professional
general.
voice
right?
actors.
That's what they do, right? Like that's entertainment of that caliber
Right.
is just on their repertoire.
Yeah, we can say these
right?
people playing were not anywhere on the level of Critical Role or
Yeah,
any other
and-
professional type.
Yeah, and we'll yeah.
Yeah, but
I'm
then
jealous, but we can never do something.
We
like
start to see the girls like really get into RPG. Like they start skipping classes.
Yes.
They start staying up all night.
that. They start dressing edgy
They
like
start
everyone
dressing
else.
edgy. They're basically going on a D&D bender.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
for days
They're
straight.
doing what Robbie did in the last movie, just minus all the psychosis and plus crazy. Oh, we're gonna pause. Wait. All right, cool. I had to make sure that they weren't gonna stop here.
Yeah, sorry, gang. We do live in Los Angeles.
I just do a lot of illegal things, and I don't need that. I don't need that right now.
Yeah, so they basically go on this D&D bender, and they're not going to class. They're starting to flunk out of school, and then the teacher, she's like, so Debbie,
Yeah.
the one that's the magic user, she has the power.
Yeah,
she
she
goes to,
can
like,
actually, like, so that's
Yeah.
a thing too, is like she can
Not yet.
actually fucking
well,
cast
not
spells.
yet, but she goes to her teacher. And, you know, she's like, what can I do to pass this class? And his advice to her, you know, because this is also very much a porno moment.
I thought he was gonna be like, go down on me right now, or some
Yeah,
shit like
he's
that, like
like,
some very
I-
predatory shit.
I know how you can pass this class. Like, I totally thought I was going to whip it out. And he just says, quit the RPGs.
Which is fucking ridiculous. And so instead, she like actually learns magic.
Right, and so that's the next step. Mistress Frost is like, Debbie, or calls her her real name, which is like her elk feather or
Some shit. I like elk feather.
I don't think that was it, but it was
It's
something.
absolutely not elk
Elf?
feather, but it is now.
Elf heart. That sounds right.
I like elk feather.
Okay, elk feather, but I think it's elf heart. And then when
That
she
sounds
grabs
like
her,
elf fart.
and thank you. She's like, "You're level 8 now, so now you get to do real magic." And this girl learns legit magic, and there's a scene where she's doing her spells, and it looks like it looks like the language from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it looks like Elvish. I
It
don't know
looks
how you
like-
don't get how they don't get sued for that.
It's
but
definitely the official Elvish
Yeah.
language that they're using. Probably because they didn't monetize this.
oh, they didn't.
I don't think they made any
I'm
money
sure-
on this. It was a Kickstarter.
Oh, okay. So it was just like
Yeah.
we just want to make it be
It
fun.
was a Kickstarter campaign.
Okay. All right. Cool.
And so she learns real magic, and then she uses magic on her teacher to get an A on her paper.
And it works.
And it works.
And even he's like, I don't know how she did that. Huh. And then he just fucks off.
And
He's
then
like,
he
whatever,
fucks
that's
off
fine.
'cause she's using real magic. But remember, so Marcy and Debbie started this together.
Yeah, well,
and
so
Debbie's leveled up, and Marcy
is
still
still
only
low.
level 7.
So she was like, can we go, goes to the Mistress Frost, and they're like, hey, can we do something harder
Yeah.
that'll help me level up so that I can also do the cool
Yeah,
spell
Marcy's
things?
like, I want to do magic. I want to serve the cause. And Mistress Frost is like, are you guys ready to take it to the next level?
Kind of like the cavern thing in the last movie. clearly patented by JJ, they decide to indulge in LARP. They're like, what? Live action role play.
Yeah, they call it the stronger stuff.
Yeah.
Is LARPing.
Well,
they're like not allowed to break character at all.
No,
like,
they're not.
She asks Marcy, she's like, what is your name? And she says, Marcy. And Mistress Frost just straight up
Fucking
slaps her.
Shit gets real immediately. Frost backhands the shit out of her.
Right across the face. She's like, I'm Thorn whatever.
Like whatever the
her
fuck was.
fucking name is.
Thorny one, whatever.
And it's so funny, like how they start.
Well, then they're like, you have to face your foe, and
Low key, the outfits they put on, pretty cool.
yeah, I mean,
pretty badass.
It was good LARPing.
I was pretty impressed. I was like, that was pretty good LARPing.
Well, then Nitro comes out because they're like, you have to fight somebody now to beat this dungeon that you're in.
Well, the plan is that Mistress Frost and the evil ones who are they needed Marcy to read the
Necronomicon?
Yes, Necronomicon to help raise Cthulhu from the depths.
So they made it part of the thing.
So part of the LARP is that, Debbie or Marcy's reading the Necronomicon brings up Cthulhu, but to get the full thing processed, one of the two of them needs to kill themselves willingly.
Yes.
To complete the takeover of Cthulhu. So that's when they bring out Nitro to
beats the living shit.
like literally like is holding an axe to her actual neck, and she's like, Debbie, like, save me. And Mistress goes to Debbie, she's like, if you save her, you're out of the game. And Debbie's so wrapped up in RPGing
that she's cool with it. She like not really, but she lets it happen.
And then he gets off of Marcy, and her character's dead.
Right, which sends her into this spiraling depression because now Frost is like, you can never associate with her. You can't be around her anymore.
She's dead. You can't talk to her
she's
anymore.
dead to you. Mm-hmm. Which leads her within like a week.
Yeah, really quickly.
Not even a week.
It was very fast.
She fucking hangs herself.
Yeah, so Marcy hangs herself in her dorm room because she was so distraught over having her character die.
Indeed. And not being able to hang out with her friend
and not being
anymore.
able to hang out with Debbie anymore.
Sounds like they were pretty disturbed to begin with. They're, again, really
Lesbians.
Insane. Yeah.
She
like
was
sexual.
in love with
like
her.
they want, yeah.
I could never see
was her
Debbie
person.
again. I might as well die.
It's over. My heart was there.
Right, and so then, Debbie's very distraught. She's like, Marcy killed herself. Why? It's just a game.
And she's like, I have to avenge this. I have to fix this. And she like gears up with whatever her stuff is and decides that she needs to go into the basement of this university to fight all of the evil stuff down there. Which I guess maybe they referenced earlier in the film. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, the sewers. Yeah, they referenced that.
Yeah.
In the tunnels. That was also referenced in Mazes and Monsters. They just did it as caverns instead. And then in this one,
yeah,
it was
because
like
it's going back to that story about
tunnels.
the actual...
the actual person dying in the tunnels.
Also, she goes down there and there's a real fucking monster.
There was, yeah.
Like a real thing she
well,
fights?
because the Necronomicon has been read, so real monsters are starting to come out.
Yeah, but she gets away from it and they never touch it again.
Yeah, no,
like, she doesn't kill it.
No. Well, we can only assume that the power of the Lord kills it, because...
Oh, right. So she loses the fight that she thought she was going to win.
She realizes that she fucked up. Marcy's dead. She realizes, because Mistress Frost tells her, she's like, Marcy was weak. We only needed her to read the Necronomicon. We have the real power, and we're rising Cthulhu to take over the world. And Marcy's
there's even like a really bad
Debbie.
CG of Cthulhu starting to materialize.
It was really bad. But I gotta give them props, because this was a Kickstarter.
I mean, they put in the work.
It was pretty bad, though.
Yeah.
But then Debbie goes to church.
Well, it goes because the fucking
Chad
from the beginning, the senior who gave the orientation, was like, you have to remember, you can't try to use dark forces against dark forces. Only the power of Jesus can fix this. And that all I could think was, every episode of Bible Man that I was forced to watch as a child came rolling back to me immediately, because I was like, this is how every episode ends. This is literally every piece of fucking Christian media shoved down my throat when I was a kid. Is what happens here, except for the end, which we'll talk about in a second. So they go to church, and she like gets on her knees and professes for the pastor, who is like way over the top. Like, you must profess and be healed.
Evangelical.
Be healed, I say.
Yeah, evangelical, yeah. I was like, you have to burn these dark items.
Yeah, and talks about like hating the works of J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yep.
and C.S. Lewis. And all I could think was those were both outspoken Christians. A Catholic, I think, but well, at least
there were witchcraft.
J.R.R.
There
Tolkien was. But I thought C.S. Lewis was an evangelist.
I don't know. There was witchcraft in there.
It's just funny how outspoken against those two
It's almost like
it
you're
is.
trying to apply logic to them, and that just doesn't work.
So
She prays.
She prays, and it's the prayer that literally unravels everything.
Yeah,
she shirks off all of the spirits of the evil
She
ones.
burns her player's handbook.
Right, well, so, like, in that prayer, though, Cthulhu disappears.
Yeah.
A lightning bolt hits the fucking spooky castle that has all the dark ones in it, and they all die instantly.
Yeah. Our secret lair!
And then it ends with them at a bonfire, all the Christians just burning the literature and all the handbooks from the They literally have a book burning. Like, that's the right thing to do. And I thought there'd be more, and then the credits roll, and that's it. They literally end on book burning was the answer.
And Marcy still died.
Marcy's still super dead.
Yep.
There could totally still be a monster down in the basement.
I'd like to believe that if Cthulhu was thwarted, the one from the basement was also probably thwarted.
That's fair.
So you grew up in a really religious household. So like you were saying,
Yes.
like this sort of message and sorts. This was something that was like indoctrinated into you.
This
as a
has
child.
Vacation Bible School.
Is this like
written
the stuff that they would
all
teach?
over
Because
it.
I didn't grow up in a religious home, so like watching this, I was like, this is so far fetched. Like, why would they ever think that this was real? But you like
This
is
isn't
it.
as far off as you think.
Really?
Yeah, so this is absurd to like the average person, but growing up, and I know a producer over there can probably attest this, and you're welcome to chime in whenever you'd like. Growing up, every year they came out with new videos for kids, specifically for kids' church and for something called Vacation Bible School, which is like
I always saw the banners for it.
It's like a summer school for Christian kids where you take like a week and you just go and learn all these things.
Yeah.
And it was always this like demonic sort of depiction of normal shit that should just be considered normal and be fine, but because it's not within like the perfect guidelines of, white evangelist Christianity, white American evangelist Christianity, it's considered wrong. And it's always and it sucks because they do it through like it's kind of manipulative, because a lot of the time, one of the ones I remember is there's this little beaver puppet. I don't know its fucking name, but it would go to different places and have adventures and have to remind all these people in despair that God fixes all and all this sort of stuff. And he would pray with them, and then that would fix the thing that was going on, no matter what they were going through.
Just like how Debbie
it's literally
brought
that.
up Cthulhu, but the second she prayed to Jesus, he's like, all right, I'll help.
Yeah, but think about it like the Muppets. Like, think about like take this movie and put it in the context of like Kermit the Frog going and helping somebody.
But isn't that just VeggieTales?
VeggieTales is a little better about it because
they hide it a little better, I feel like.
Well, I don't know if they're trying to hide it that much, though. They're just like, here's a depiction of a Bible story, pray, blah, 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 blah. Whereas, okay, hit us with it, producers.
I was just going to say, I remember very, very vividly in, I don't know, middle school or high school, we did VBS at our church every summer. And I remember very specifically one of our pastors going, hey, we should go out, try and find, low-income families that need their kids to be out of the house for a couple days during the summer, because we can get those kids in and help out the parents. And it wasn't explicitly stated, but it was pretty much, let's get the kids to be Christian.
Whoa.
Oh my god.
That's like almost as bad as like army recruitment going to the low poverty, like the
Right, but it was always said as, let's help out the parents. But it was always kind of implied.
Whoa, y'all are out here trying to convert the poor kids?
Yeah.
So you think that's an isolated thing, but all the way up through high school, that was shit that we did. There was this giant conference that happened once a year, and I don't know if our producer Ethan knows about it or not, but it was called Dare to Share. And
yeah.
Yes. And I went every year. My parents paid to make sure I go every year. And a big piece of it was they would find, like, whatever town was in that year. Like, the one I remember the most was Lincoln, Nebraska we went to, which is a not fabulous town. Like, it's got some nice stuff, but there's a lot of low-income stuff, too. A lot of people just loitering around because they have nothing better to do. There were, like, 10,000 kids there from, like, 12 to 17. Mm-hmm. One day was dedicated to just going out and trying to get people to become Christian. And getting them to come back to, like, the Superdome thing it was at. They'd be let in for free and professing their love to Jesus Christ in front of everybody.
This is very strange.
That was part of what we did. And that was what it was. And I hate to say this, but it fucking got like it had me for a couple years. I was drinking the Jesus punch
You were in it.
almost till like the beginning of high school.
Do you think that had you seen this film while you were still in the thick of it, do you think you would have looked at this film in a different light?
Absolutely.
Really?
I think I would have seen this and been like, well, yeah, you shouldn't play D&D. There's like demonic shit with that.
Yeah, there's like magic with it. Like you like
do this.
might
You're gonna
actually
get, like
awaken.
you're gonna create some fucking bullshit for yourself.
Wow.
Yeah, I would have drank that punch. I would have ate that red pill all day long.
So when did you start playing Dungeons and Dragons?
When did I start? Halfway through high school. It was actually with a girlfriend who my parents hated because she was very anti-Christian. And she got me into it. So got Barrett into it actually at the same time.
So you literally started playing Dungeons and Dragons with an anti-Christian one. This seems exactly like you played right into Satan's hands.
That's how they saw it. That's how they saw it. So, but I wouldn't, looking back on it, she was right. The ex now was right in all of her words. She was very, very mean about it though. She didn't need to be so petty with my parents.
Aww.
Like, my mom would be like, oh, yeah, I don't know about all that Dungeons and Dragons witchcraft stuff. You shouldn't, all that fake stuff that leads you away from God. And she would be like, well, God's fake stuff, so it's fine.
Ooh,
and I'm
fair.
Like, please don't say that to my mother at the dinner table. She would say that shit while we were all eating dinner together. And my whole family, with a very Christian father and a very Christian little brother, she would trigger, right? Like, shoot her fucking shot at death.
That's a lot. I would have handled it being like, thank you so much. You think I could do actual magic?
Yeah, no.
Thanks for thinking I'm like spooky and powerful enough to really wield the power of Cthulhu. Like, that's so cool.
Well, she would say things like that too, but again in a very mean way. She'd be like, "What, are you afraid I'm going to cast a spell on you?" And I'd be like,
and your mom's like, "Yes."
I'm like, "Mom, don't fucking like, please, can we not?"
Yo.
Well, see, and part of it was she was like, "You need to get." That was her name. I'm not going to say last names, and might even bleep that out even. To come to church. And I asked once, and that was for a very much like a end of my religion moment when I talked to her about it, and she was almost in tears because of how pressured she felt to need to conform to this horrific belief in her head that was very, because she's in the LGBTQ community. She has a lot of friends who were, and she saw the persecution firsthand from religion and was very much like, you're trying to make me go to this with you, and she was crying by the end of it, and I realized in that moment just how much of a kind of piece of shit I was being about it in the moment, and realized that this isn't really something I want to subscribe to anymore. And that's kind of where my to her credit, it worked.
It worked. So
I diverted.
D&D separated him from the Lord.
And it just kind of went from there. But so when did you start playing D&D?
Recently, I started within the last year because I had always wanted to play. I'm an improviser. I love being an actor, and I was like, I think I would have a lot of fun. Like, both my brothers always played, but we didn't live together when they were playing, and so like there was no way to get into it. Like, none of my friends played or anything, and then I kind of peer pressured Barrett into starting the campaign we're in now, because I was like, hey Barrett, like I've been doing all this research, like I really want to play D&D, and I know you and your friends have played before, and I know you're a DM sometimes. And kind of was like, please, 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 please.
I'm so glad you got him to say yes, because he did not want to DM for a while. Partially because of how much work. Oh,
it's a lot of work.
Speaking of the devil,
talk to us.
Hit it, Barrett.
Oh yeah. Oh, well, I've gotten. In fact, I think I've gotten a little too into it because I got some plans. I got some plans for future stuff.
He's gonna kill us hard.
Are you enjoying yourself?
I think now I am. I think after we got out of the first because we just finished our first adventure. And I think because it was so low level, I mean, I felt a little bored. But I think that's just because it is an introductory adventure, But this next one, I guess being able to add a lot of my own flair and story and background and meat to the process.
So you thought it was boring
I'm sorry we bore you.
Yeah, sorry that we bored you when Thoris almost died by a rat.
No, I'm saying that I guess the options that I was given as a DM were boring.
Okay,
Here are your rats and skeletons. Do I get anything else? No.
Oh, that's fair because we are following one of the pre-written guides. It's not a homebrew or anything, but I am honestly having so much fun. Like I got a custom-made miniature online that looks like my character. I have D&D Beyond, go over my character sheets. I'm so jazzed to level up to start unlocking some level 2 bard spells. It's a lot of fun and it's so creative. Is it nerdy? It's basically
so nerdy.
It's fantasy football.
Real. That's such an interesting
Because
comparison.
I also play fantasy football.
Yeah, so do I.
And it's based on points of something you have no control over, just like a dice roll. I have no control over a dice roll.
Right.
I have no control over when Christian McCaffrey gets injured, even though he was my first round pick.
Every year.
Just
so he's getting traded. Just wait for it.
Oh, yeah. Coming. But you don't have any control over that. And so you're sitting here, fates be damned, and, everything is up to fate. Everything is up to a roll of the dice, essentially, of what points you're going to get, what interactions you're going to have. Is your player going to get hurt? Is your player going to succeed? Is your player going to get a touchdown? It's all, random. And so when I see these, like, jock guys being like, oh, D&D so nerdy, I'm like, oh, you play fantasy football, then? They're like, yeah, of course. I'm like,
oh, that shit's just as nerdy.
It's just as nerdy.
Oh, yeah. I love telling that.
It's all the same. You're role-playing as a head coach, essentially, picking your perfect football team.
Well, that's the shit. That's for me. Fantasy football is the thing I bring up with my older brother, because he's very, like, stereotypical masculine, and I need to be front forward, and I need to be manly man. So whenever I bring up something about film or stuff like that, he's like, oh, yeah, he just makes fun of it in any way he can, right? Because he's
but then ask him, like,
I was like, you play fucking fantasy football, bro.
Right.
Like,
it's the same, and so...
Like, what do you mean?
I
could be like, you also love fucking disc golf, all right? You like throwing $25 plastic frisbees at a metal pole, okay? Like,
that is nerdy.
What are you gonna, like?
Disc golf, I think, is the nerdiest.
You fucking ranted at me about these really nice shorts you bought that let your fucking dick breathe more while you throw this goddamn frisbee at a metal pole 300 feet away, and how you're better at it because of that. Like, come on, man. We're through it, dude. You want to, like... Not to put you on blast, but I gotta give this to you, Cody, because I love you to death. You're a fucking dentist, dude. Like, it's awesome, and I'm thankful for you, and I love you to death, but just embrace your nerdiness, man. It's time. It's time. You're gonna be a dad soon. It's time to let it happen.
Yeah, I think through D&D, I've really been able to embrace more of my nerdiness, and I love it. And after watching these films, I think I like D&D more now, because I'm like, hell yeah! Like, people hate this, and I'm like, yeah, it's so much fun.
I don't get how you can even, like, I feel like everyone who hates it is just ignorant to, like, what it is.
They haven't really given it a shot yet. I have met some people who have tried and, like, didn't like it, which I get. Like, it's not for you.
We did as well.
And it's like, and I understand that, but I think the majority of the people, if they do a one shot or something, I just don't think people have the attention span for it, because I think we're getting to a point in time where people don't use their imagination as much.
Well, see, that's what I was going to say, is anyone creative, like creatively driven in any facet,
likes D&D.
Is going to like D&D. Because it just gives you the opportunity to just let those juices just go.
You're playing, you're make-believing, you're RPGing.
Yeah, RPG.
And I think now in the realm of, screen media, it certainly is, I think, taken away a lot of creativity, and D&D is the catalyst to, like, use your fucking imagination, bro.
Have fun.
It's fun.
And you can make it whatever you want. Like, I'm stereotypically masculine, I'd say. I'm kind of a Chad sometimes.
What? No.
But you can still have fun with that and be creative. Like, I play a half-orc who subscribes to a religion that is literally, like, the one thing in life is getting crushed by a giant woman. And that's so much fun to me, that I can be that weird, stupid bullshit and actually be, like, my character is serious about it and have a great time. Like, I think it's wonderful for that reason. And I think D&D is something that everybody should try at least once.
Agreed. And these films...
Despite what them religious...
Yeah, these films did not dissuade us.
Yeah, like you said, I want to play more.
Yeah, I want to play more. Do you have any, final thoughts? Does anybody have any final thoughts on our dungeons?
I think this was a wonderful episode. Producers?
No, yeah, I think you about covered it.
Yeah.
I believe we've gotten everything we can. This has been our episode of Jabbermouths. I've been JD.
And I'm Georgia.
And I think it's about time to check in with Ethan and Barrett. They were thinking about doing something sexy with one another, I think.
Barrett, what happened?
Oh boy, yeah, so you kind of let a dominatrix stuff all your dice up your ass, and you blacked out when your D20 tore your anus.
I guess you could say the night was a critical fail?
Okay, you just lost your morphine privileges.
No.
Alright, no, give me the tube.
No,
well, we hope you enjoyed Jabbermouths. We'll see you next time. Now give me that morphine drip, don't fight me.
No, give it back.